All right. So today I'm joined by Andre. I've had the pleasure to know Andre over the last year or so after I joined a coaching program he runs. A genuinely nice guy and an operator through and through who's achieved some cool stuff, which we're going to dive into. Andre, good to have you, man. Could you give the listeners just a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Liam. It's cool, man. I think we first met at the cigar bar here in Tampa when you first arrived to the US for the Client Ascension event we hosted. And that was a great time. And it's cool to see kind of how things have evolved since then with the London event and really everything that's just happened within the community and with you. But my background is, as you mentioned, I'm an operator, business owner. I run a coaching program called Client Ascension, a lead gen agency called KnowledgeX, and now building a SaaS company called ListKit. And so, yeah, really just an entrepreneur at heart, always working on multiple ventures and trying to create great products and solutions to help people with lead generation.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna dive into ListKit for the main bulk of this. But before that, if you're okay sharing, like, what's the combined revenues for like all of your ventures together?
Yeah, I mean, this year we'll do over $5 million in revenue across the three businesses.
Nice, big numbers. Okay, so let's dive a bit into your background a bit because you have, from what I know of you so far, you have quite an interesting background. You know, entrepreneurship runs through the blood. So how long have you been doing this, like this online business stuff? Why did you get started? Can we
Yeah,
dig into that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two biggest role models in my life were my dad and my grandpa, both of who were entrepreneurs. So my dad was born in Lebanon and then moved to the US when he was around 13 or 14. And because of the language barrier and just all the stuff he had to grow up around, he struggled in school. And so school was never really for him. And so he got out of school and just pursued entrepreneurship with great success. And so I grew up watching a really successful, hardworking entrepreneur in him. And then on my mom's side, the way their family came up was, again, very humble. Um, her dad, who was my grandpa, was like a gym teacher and a math teacher for the longest time, and then when he was in his 40s or 50s, he started a coupon book business, and that really took off. And so then that side of the family also spun into entrepreneurship, and so the two biggest role models I grew up around were hardworking, successful entrepreneurs. And so I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the first taste of entrepreneurship was just reselling sneakers on the internet. I remember I was like forced to get a job as soon as I turned 16 because that's when you were old enough to get a job in the US. And like as soon as I got that job, I hated it day one. And the goal was to try to get out of it as soon as possible. And the only way I'd be able to get out of it, because my dad and my mom, they're very strict. They want me working and making my own money, was to find a side hustle. And so reselling sneakers was my side hustle. And then that turned into just more online business through agencies and marketing and all that sort of stuff.
Nice. When did you actually start Knowledge X? Because that for a while that was kind of like your main thing, right?
Yeah, KnowledgeX started in 2018, so around 5 years ago at this point. Um,
Wow.
yeah, but I've been in
Okay.
entrepreneurship for around 8 or 9 years, and so like KnowledgeX was the first taste of real success, and so that didn't come for really 3 or 4 years in entrepreneurship. I was struggling and just not able to really see anything take off.
Nice. Okay. And what sort of motivated you to get into the world of SaaS? You know, very different to agency.
Yeah, so again, my grandpa's like my number one influencer, and every time I have a conversation with him, he started in the coupon book business, which is selling physical products like these coupon books all
Mm.
across the US. And that did very well. They exited coupon businesses like twice at this point. And he's happy with that. But their real success came after with software. And so he's always been telling me like you got to get into software, you got to
Mm.
have stickiness, you have to have recurring, like all these keywords that you hear people talk about to go for that big exit. And so I always knew getting into business, like the ultimate goal, because I saw my grandpa exit multiple companies, was to exit, like the big exit. That's the one thing I've always worked towards. And so I
Mm.
knew SaaS or software, some form of it, had to be the answer because with an agency, the exits aren't very exciting or common. And with a coaching program, same thing. And so I knew that if I could build a client base and a community and a personal brand around an agency, like a done for you service, and then a coaching program like our done with you community, I could
Mm.
figure out a SaaS that can slot in and be a value add to all those people.
Yeah, so to talk about that, and we'll talk about the differences between like agency and SaaS in a bit, but you guys have built what's known as like a value ladder, right? Russell Brunson concept, where you've kind of got this the value ladder that leads ascend through, right? So you've got the done for you, the done with you, the software, and they're all targeting like the same niche, right? It's all related around cold outbound. Is this by design? Has this always been sort of like the master plan?
By design, exactly. So we call it the offer ecosystem. Same thing, right?
Mm,
And I always got the question early on is like, how are you running multiple businesses? And I always looked at it as the same business altogether because there's a software department, there's a coaching
mm,
department, and there's a done for you or a service department, all servicing the same clients with the same end goal. And so the way we look at Client Ascension, Knowledge X, and ListKit is they're all achieving the same umbrella vision, which is to help business owners generate more leads. ListKit does it through providing a software tool. Client Ascension does it through providing a community and coaching, and then KnowledgeX does it through providing like done for you actual services. And it just makes it easier to cross pollinate because if someone starts in Client Ascension, they eventually sign up for ListKit because we teach them how to get leads using ListKit. If someone starts with ListKit, they do it themselves, they realize they need help, they go into Client Ascension, or they just buy our services like our done for you agency. And so customers, yeah, they go through ListKit, Client Ascension, and KnowledgeX. Most people that work with us go through all three offers at some point over the course of a year or two.
wow, so you've kind of built this sort of growth loop, right, where you're constantly upselling people to the next stage, and obviously the beauty of software then becomes recurring revenue. Yeah, that's don't hear of many people like building that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about ListKit, the main star of the show. Are you happy to share the current revenue and what that's been like over the last few months? Because you only launched recently, right?
Yeah, so we're very new to the market. I mean, we've been working on ListKit for 2.5 years at this point. So the way we started ListKit was as like a concierge service where someone would request a leads list and then behind the
Mm,
scenes our team would manually build that leads list and put it together and send it to them within 24 hours. We knew the end goal was always SaaS or software, but in the beginning we needed to test the validity of the service in general. And that's something I learned like early on because I had like an app idea that I tried to launch back in college and I never tested the market to see if they actually
mm,
wanted it. And so I spent a bunch of money on resources like developers and design. And as soon as it got to market, it flopped because no one actually wanted it. And so I
mm,
reversed it with ListKit to see is this something that people actually want. And then we were able to use the cash flow from the service or the concierge thing in the beginning to actually fund the development of the software. And so
mm,
that was like the key to success in the beginning. And over that time, we built up a really great customer base. We had a couple hundred customers that purchased ListKit services. And then of course we had Client Ascension, which is full of people that need ListKit. And then we had our agency, a bunch of clients that also need ListKit. And so
mm,
as soon as we launched, I mean, like we were at a huge head start. And so within the first 90 days, the revenue numbers that we have been sharing is within the first 90 days. I think at this point we're at like day 110 or 115. But within 90 days, we were able to achieve $1 million in ARR because of that foundation we had coming into it. And of course, the product is extremely solid and the community and the branding, but there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, in 90 days, $1 million ARR, which we're super excited about.
yeah, that's crazy. And the beauty of SaaS is you've essentially created multi millions of dollars in enterprise value in 90 days. But of course, the whole journey wasn't 90 days. I'm sure there's a lot of sweat
Yeah.
and blood and tears, and maybe we can talk about that. But yeah, to achieve that kind of figure in 90 days is crazy. Like it takes the average company years to get that. So, and
Yeah,
I
it's
think
on
that,
our website. It's on our website, I think, for Web Summit, which is an event we're going to be attending this upcoming week in Lisbon, which is
oh no.
just like a tech event. But on our website for that event, it's us versus Apollo. It took us 90 days and it took Apollo 5 years to get to exactly where we're at, which is crazy to think about.
That's crazy, and we'll talk about how maybe you're different to Apollo in a second. But I think you touched on it briefly. But what is the kind of what does ListKit do? Who's it for? What does it do?
Yeah, so the original idea for ListKit was, as an agency owner myself, I was spending way too much time building leads list for our clients when I needed to be spending most of my time actually sending out the emails, right? It's the same problem that a lot of sales teams have, is they have their SDRs and their account execs building and prospecting leads and not actually sending and in being engaging conversation with those people. Because if you're just looking at a lead on a screen, like, you're not going to be able to close them
Mm.
or do anything with them and generate cash from them. And so you need to be spending all of your hours calling and talking and texting and emailing. But because leads are very hard to scrape with tools like Zoom Info and Apollo and everything else that's available, we needed a better solution. So we had kind of built a step by step way of doing things in house that leverage VAs, like cheap labor. But
Mm.
still, it was expensive because you're using manual work. And not only is it expensive, but it took a long time and there were people to manage. And so the logistics were not ideal. And so I knew there had to be a better way. And really, what we did with ListKit is figure out how can we get into this platform that is ListKit, find our exact ICP, which is essentially who we want to send emails to, get as many of those leads as we want, not be limited to how many we could select per page or per month, right? It's all credit based. However many you want to pay for, you can get out of the platform within minutes and then exit off and go do your thing, send the emails. So ListKit is essentially this platform. It's list building for dummies. Like, we want you to go in, get your leads, and get out. Like, we don't want you to be spending all day on ListKit. And so it's just a tool that is able to equip you with a verified leads list. And that's the other big part of it as well, is the leads are triple verified. And so you know that the list that you're receiving from us, you can confidently plug it into your smart lead or your instantly or whatever sending tool you're using to right away start sending out emails.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Because there, I mean, I think in terms of awareness of cold email, I think the market as a whole has quite a long way to go. Like you and I, I do cold emailing. You've been doing cold emailing for a long while now. But there's actually a lot of companies out there that are still, sending emails off primary domains,
Yeah.
doing like 40 emails per day, 50 emails per day. Like, so how important is that part of ListKit where the leads are verified? Like, why does that matter? And why should people care about that?
Yeah, so it's the most important part. It's like you're paying for data, right? And so you want to pay for data that's actually good. Like, would you go and pay for a phone number where you call them and you can't actually connect? Like, no. And so it's the same concept with email. It's like, if you email this person and it never actually gets sent to that person, why should you have to pay for that email? And not only is it like a missed opportunity, but it's also going to affect the emails that you send
Mm.
to verified contacts as well, because with every email you send that bounces back, it hurts your sender reputation with people like Google, to the point where they're going to start taking you out of the inbox and moving you into spam, even for emails that are verified. And so it has a negative effect even on the rest of the list that is verified. And you hit a great point, which we could get into more of as well, as like SaaS strategy, right? The big part of the reason why we've seen such quick growth is because we've created our TAM. And what that means is, like, not many people know about cold email. And so we first educate people on cold email. And because we're the one to educate them on it, they're listening to our advice and recommendations on the tools they should use. So they're not even looking at Apollo versus ListKit. They only know of ListKit because they learned everything from us. And so we're
Mm.
creating buyers, number one. And that's it, number one.
Mm.
But the other thing to mention here is that's what Russell Brunson did as well, right? With ClickFunnels, is he created a market for
Mm.
funnel builders or funnel
Mm.
hackers, as he says.
Yeah, you're kind of you're squeezing the market for as much juice as possible because you're kind of training people how to do this thing, and you're providing all the tools and resources for them to do that thing as well. And so it's kind of indoctrination in a way. Hey, here's this new way of doing cold outbound. You can build a business. And by doing it, you can build your own business or help others build their businesses. And by the way, we're going to provide you with all the tools and resources to, one, send those emails, but two, like get good results with those emails as well. Yeah, it's very similar to Russell Brunson, where he was up against like website builders, and he was like, well, I didn't want to be a website builder, and so he sort of introduced the category of funnel builders, and this sort of new opportunity of doing things.
Exactly.
Um, Okay, and we will touch on the power of content, because I think that's something people need to lean into a bit more. Now, I know you're an operator at heart. That's kind of your responsibility in all of your companies, and so I'd be very surprised if you didn't have an in-depth launch strategy planned for ListKit. Maybe it was just it was all scrappy and there wasn't a plan, but was there structure behind that? And could you just talk us through at a high level, what was the plan? How did you sort of deliver as much of an impact to the market and grow to that
Yeah.
revenue in such a short period of time?
Yeah, so I mean, the first part of the plan was to get the product to the point where we were confident enough to put it out into the market. And that was a tough thing to balance, right? Because I always knew it would not be fully up to standard before we launched, but at some point we had to launch because the development costs and how much money we had in the bank, like it was getting very close, and we're fully bootstrapped, so we didn't have a bunch of capital to just continue to pull from. And we were in development for over 2 years. Like
Mm,
ListKit, we spent over $200,000 developing the thing before we even saw revenue from the SaaS launch. And so we were, getting really close to the point where we just had to launch it one way or the other. But that was focus priority number one is product. And then once we were confident around having a good product, again, it was kind of easier for us because of all the work we did leading up to it. We knew we could do a big announcement and a big launch into Client Ascension. We knew we
mm,
could do a big launch to all of the clients at KnowledgeX. We knew we could do a big launch to existing customers or past purchasers of the done for you ListKit service. And then we also had a really nice email list built up across myself, Daniel, Christian, Oliver, Dan, like our email list and personal brands, and on Twitter. And so
mm,
the plan was initially to do like product hunt and to do like a lot of marketing to sell the product. But we kind of pivoted the plan right before we launched it. And instead, we went the route of just telling the ListKit story. And so a lot of people remember this before we launched ListKit for like 2 or 3 weeks before, we sent daily emails and even daily tweets just telling the ListKit story because we haven't really told it before. Where we had this idea, we encountered a lot of roadblocks early on. We spent a lot of money. We didn't think we'd ever even launch, and the fact that we now are launching, we just appreciate anyone's support. So we didn't really touch on the product and what's so great about it. We just hit on the story and why someone should want to support what we've spent so much time and money building. And I think that got the buy-in. So as soon as we launched, people were just buying because they've listened to our story of an underdog going up against people who've raised funding like Apollo and Zoom Info. And they just wanted to support whatever it was. A lot of people just bought and had no idea what the product was until
mm,
after they bought because they read and got so bought into our story through that email sequence. And then, of course, again, we had a lot of partnership deals like with Client Ascension and some of the other bigger communities out there that teach cold outreach, like
mm.
affiliate deals and whatnot. But that was really it. We put the product out there. Oh, the big thing that we decided as well last minute that changed everything was the school community.
I
So
was going to
again,
mention that.
the community surrounding the software is so key because like there's so many people using the software, they also need community to ask questions and provide support and provide feedback. And so the school community, we're up to like 780 uh, members in the school community. We're posting in there every single day. We're running promos and discounts. And then even better, in the classroom section of the school community is probably the best course on cold email that you can find on the internet that doesn't cost anything. It's like an
Mm,
A to Z overview of how to do cold email outreach. Like anyone, no matter how much experience they have with cold email, can go into our school community for free, go to the classroom section, watch all the videos, and know everything there is to know about cold email outreach. And that was all game changer. It's just giving them everything up front.
nice. Yeah, I'll drop the link of that in the description. I'm actually a member, and damn, you're active in there. I think I was getting like my notifications were set to like hourly, and so I was just getting notifications all the time. Like you're keeping everyone like engaged in there. You're adding like a lot of value through the cold email course. I see you're doing like promotions and stuff like that. I was going to bring that up, but yeah, it's interesting, the story, because people are obviously going to automatically hear the 1 million revenue in 90 days, but what they don't hear is the 2 year journey to get there, the over 200k spent. I'm sure there were moments where you were probably like okay, let's call it quits, or but you stay towards the vision, and you've probably made that money back like already, or you're well on your way to make it back. Um, so looking back, over the last 2 years, what would you have done differently based on the knowledge you've gained now?
Yeah, number one thing is just bring in a CTO. I mean, that's really where we credit all of the success to, for why we're where we're at today. I always had the vision, and it's kind of interesting because my background in all the other businesses I'm involved in is really like the operator or the integrator, but with ListKit, it's more of the visionary. Like I always saw the end product. It was just this very crystallized picture in my brain, like for 2 years, but I couldn't communicate it effectively, and I couldn't find a CTO or a developer really that could bring it to life.
Mm,
And so, exactly like you said, about a year ago, we were at the point where we had spent over $125,000 at this point in development expenses with nothing to show for it, like literally nothing. What we had delivered was a really nice UI with no functionality and no real data housed inside. And so we were like 100%. Like, let's just give up. The only reason we wanted to continue ListKit was to provide that value add to Client Ascension students, because when you sign up for Client Ascension, you get a certain amount of free ListKit credits, right? And we didn't want to take that away. And so we kept going. We kind of turned focus away from it for a while. And it wasn't until the same event we met at, I met
mm,
Oliver, who was one of the students in Client Ascension. And we're talking about ListKit. He knew about it just from our tweets and our content, and we just hit it off that first night we met, and I could tell he really understood like the vision and the technicality behind it all. And so right away I figured, hey, let's give this one more shot. Let's partner with Oliver, see if him and his team of developers could actually bring this thing to life. And surely he did. Within 6 months after we met and put a deal together early this year, we launched. And the product is amazing, as you'll hear from a lot of our users and our reviews on places like G2.
mm,
And yeah, the biggest thing was that you really do need someone in the business that is like fully dedicated to the CTO role. At least if you're doing something to the level of ListKit, because it's not just some like micro SaaS like a lot of people are launching nowadays, or like a no code SaaS. Like it's fully custom. Like there's real IP behind it that is
mm,
extremely impressive. And
mm,
there's no way I could have done that myself, or even found developers or a team of developers to do it for me without a
mm,
CTO dedicated to that role.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay, so you're kind of, like you said, you're the sort of underdog in this space. You're taking on these, unicorns, basically, lots of funding behind them, probably teams of hundreds, maybe thousands of employees. You know, um, how are you gonna take them down? Like, what's the plan? What does the sort of roadmap look like for ListKit? How are you beating them today? Like, could you just speak a bit about that?
Yeah, I think the core focus for us is content and community. So part of our story is we're creating this product for ourselves, who are dissatisfied with these competitors that are now
Mm,
competitors of this tool, Apollo and Zoom Info and everyone else that's out there. And so this is a tool for cold emailers, built by cold emailers, and that's kind of like our tagline. And that also puts us in a great position to educate the community on what does effective cold email actually look like. And that's what we've done so well through our school community, and we'll continue to do really well with. And the same thing with Russell Brunson. Like with ClickFunnels, everyone knows ClickFunnels is not the best and most sound and reliable product.
mm,
But why do people go and continue to use ClickFunnels and buy ClickFunnels? Is because of the community that Russell has built around it, the education that he provides around it, the events that he does around it. And that's kind of the same pathway we're looking to take with ListKit. Because we have Cold Email Mastery, which is like the most legendary, the most successful course for cold email, like of all time. We have Client Ascension, which is a fast growing agency coaching program that teaches people cold email. And we just have a lot of great minds that have a lot of success sending cold emails. And so if we can bring
mm,
people into a really good product and keep it as simple as possible, because what we see our other competitors doing is they try to do everything. Like they try to be the sending tool and the data provider, or the
mm,
CRM, the sending tool and the data provider. Whereas for us, like we only want to be the data provider. Like we'll do partnerships with Smart Lead. We'll eventually hopefully do partnerships with other sending tools like QuickMail and Instantly as well. We only want to provide data, and we just want to be the best at providing that data, and then also wrapping the education around everything you do, and partnering with some of these sending tools to do seamless integrations like we have currently with Smartlead. And so that's how I think we win. Is we double down on just the one use case of ListKit, and then build a great community and education around it.
Nice, I love it. I like it. Focus. So I want to switch gear a bit and talk about cold email because you mentioned something there which sparked in my mind about cold email mastery, how it's like the biggest, greatest course of all time. And I don't think people quite understand the impact that did have on the market. Like I think it's like grossed over $1 million in revenue, and I'd love to know the kind of enterprise value or impact that has had on like the cold email space. How many people it's enabled to start businesses, to like help other businesses. Like it's absolutely crazy. I know you've been doing cold email for a while. Like, do you have any sort of interesting stories to share about what you've been able to achieve with cold email, or like what doors it has opened for you?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. It's something I always am thinking about, is like, what impact did cold email mastery truly have? Well, it created me, right? That's how I first really found out about cold email, was by going through that course, and then eventually partnered with Daniel, and am now the one that created the 2.0 version of that course. That's also close to now generating another $1 million on the relaunch. And so like the impact that that course has had is not just teaching people how to do cold email, but it's like every cold email agency, every lead gen agency owner that we know from like our space on Twitter, they all started with that program, which is just really cool to think about. In terms of cold email, though, like what you can do with cold email, first off, like when we started Knowledge X, the first 3 months, we burned through all $6,000 that we had in our bank account trying to generate leads through Facebook ads. And at the time, we had no idea what we were doing. Now I know, like, when you're starting a brand new company, you don't run paid ads until you have a proven offer with a proven funnel and a proven sales process. But we had like no money left. And that's why cold email was so great at the time, and still is today, is because it's very inexpensive. It's probably the cheapest form of acquisition. Um, and so we were able to launch cold email campaigns for very cheap, with money out of our own pockets, start to generate calls, and then close those calls, and start to support, cash flow to scale those campaigns. So that's not like a specific story, but that's what actually saved our business in the first place.
Mm.
Other cool stories with cold outreach is we used it for our podcast to get some really big name guests. Like through cold email, we were able to do a podcast episode in Gary Vaynerchuk's office right in New York City, like the infamous office and YouTube videos that everyone sees. We were also able to connect with Rob Gronkowski, who's like a famous NFL football player, for a steak dinner, which are not super business related, but it just shows
Mm-hmm.
what cold email can do for you. And then you hear stories all the time, like Alex Hormozy talked about in his book, $100 million Leads, the importance of cold email outreach as a lead generation channel for the acquisition value that he got. We also had a student in Client Ascension. This is the only, I'm not going to say his name, but there's one student in Client Ascension who joined and exited his agency within the 6 months of joining for over 8 figures. And the reason he was able to do so was because he strapped on cold email as another acquisition source. And he was super successful coming into Client Ascension. So it's not like we just birthed this agency that then went on to exit in a couple of months. But just by bolting on cold email as another, source of acquisition, the valuation he was able to get skyrocketed. And so cold email is a really powerful tool, whether you want to get podcast interviews, you want to get job opportunities, right? Because it's not just for business owners and entrepreneurs, or if you want to just add value to your enterprise.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I see the value in it. Like, even if, let's say, you want to start a business, you can do it to validate your idea, right? To hop on calls with people, that kind of stuff. So let's talk about content. So you've managed to build quite a following online. Personal brand. You're on Twitter. I found you on Instagram the other day. You've got like over 10,000 followers there, I think. I think you're on LinkedIn. You're on YouTube. You've got a podcast. How important do you think it is when it comes to online business having a personal brand? And I'll kind of preface this because as somebody previously myself who had a limiting belief about having a personal brand, I kind of looked at it as well. They're clearly not building a business if they've got time to post
Yeah,
content. Just focus on building a business. Why are you posting content? But I think honestly, content today has become one of the biggest levers you can use to build a business. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this.
absolutely. And I had the same limiting belief as you, Liam. Like, and it wasn't even just a limiting belief of looking at others. It was also at myself. It's like, how can I create content when I'm so busy doing all of these things? And just like with anything, you figure out frameworks and systems that you can work in to get content out more consistently. Like one of the biggest game changers for me was I listened to a talk from Ravi Abuvala, who's really successful in the coaching space. And he said the same thing. Like, I just don't have time to create content. I'm busy doing business stuff. And so what he would do is just schedule out one day a month for content. And
Mm,
it makes a lot of sense too, because instead of recording one YouTube video every day or once a week, if you do it all in one day, you get into the flow and the content's actually higher quality the more you do it. And then you don't have to worry about it for another month. You could go back to, business activities. And so there's, again, systems and frameworks that you can figure out to get over that barrier that we're talking about here.
mm,
But it's everything, man. I mean, again, the reason ListKit got off to such a fast start is because people knew who I was, they liked who I was, and they trusted what I was building. And it wasn't just because of the content I was sharing, but I talked about ListKit for 2 years on Twitter before we even launched. And so
mm,
people were waiting for this big launch. And again, like we had people that supported the launch without even knowing what the tool was or why they were buying it. They just wanted to support because it's a story that they've been reading into for the past 2 years on Twitter from this guy that they've been following. Um, and so it's such an advantage. And again, it's something we've seen Russell Brunson do really well with. Like Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels is kind of who we're molding after with what we're building here at ListKit. And so, yeah, content marketing is everything. I get the limiting belief and the excuse that you don't have time and you're busy in the business. But again, there's ways around it. I even struggle. Like, I don't get a lot of content out recently because I've just been so busy with the launch. And part of it is now I could get on podcasts, right? This is a great hack because I could do this 40-minute podcast and come up with ideas for threads and snippets and shorts and whatever else. But yeah, you have to put yourself out there. Because if not, like they're just going to hear about the next solution anyways. So it's either they hear about you or they hear about your competitor. It's just really difficult to win business if you're not out there consistently.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, same as anything you can. If it's kind of with content, if you put a lot of work up front to build out those frameworks, those systems, and then it's just about for me, the first 60 minutes of every day, I work on either writing content or coming up with ideas, because I see it as one of the highest leverage things in my business right now. What's the alternative? Pumping loads of money into ads, which I don't want to do for my agency right now, or other things that I might not enjoy. It's definitely one of the biggest levers. So last couple of questions here. You mentioned something there. You're so busy at the moment. Like, how does one stay so motivated and organized when running a multi-million-dollar coaching program, an agency, and now a SaaS company? Like, how do you manage all of this?
Yeah, it really just comes down to team, right? So like I have a great team of co-founders first off, with Oliver, who's our CTO at ListKit, and then with Daniel, who's really the marketer genius behind Client Ascension and Coldo Mastery and now even ListKit. And then Dan, he covers everything sales related at ListKit and at Client Ascension. And then Christian is like my right hand man. He's like the Swiss Army knife that really can help with anything, especially copywriting. Like one thing that I'm learning more and more about SaaS is like you have to have a flow for everything, for when they purchase, for when they sign in, for when they don't sign in, for
Mm.
when they churn or cancel. You need it all, right? And so you're just constantly writing emails, and so I don't have to worry about doing those because Christian has it handled. And then we have a great person for intercom support, Kanan, who we actually found through the Client Ascension program. And then we have a great cold email outreach team with an inbox manager and someone that is there to handle like requests where we send out 50 free leads to people that want to see a sample of what ListKit data actually looks like. So we just have a great team. And so what that's allowed me to do is focus in on like who are the managers or who are the team leads and what information, what updates do I need from them to inform the work that I need to be doing that week. And so it is a lot to manage. There's multiple people involved, but because it's so departmentalized, like Oliver manages the software team. So I don't have to worry about software. Dan manages the sales team. So I don't have to worry about sales. Daniel and Christian really handle all the marketing. So I don't have to worry about marketing. So it allows me to stay in like my zone of genius, which is really like product and then team and leadership, meeting with each of those, seeing what they need, and how I can support it through different action items throughout the week. So it's great team. And then the motivation is like, again, that big exit's the thing I've been after since I first learned about entrepreneurship. And so that's the prize. And I know that we're in an opportunity zone right now where it has to be now. Like we've gotten it already to this point in the first 90 or 100 days, and we can't take our foot off the gas. Like we need to just continue scaling this thing because these opportunities, like these are unicorn opportunities that don't come around often, and it'd be a complete fumble if we don't take this to where we know it can go. That's the whole motivation. It's really fear based. It's like, man, imagine if we mess this up or don't capitalize. It's like right there in front of us.
Nice. Yeah, love it. So what does that future look like? You've got this North Star. Like what does the future look like for ListKit? At some point, do you want to like, who knows, raise investment? Yeah, just can you speak on that a bit?
Yeah, so we really want to build this tool bootstrapped. That's how we got to where we're at today. I think that's how we can get to where we're kind of envisioning going, which again is like the ultimate, like the best, most solid, reliable product on the market for sourcing leads. That's it. It's not going
Mm,
to involve any sending. It's not going to involve any CRM. It's just going to be for creating leads lists.
mm,
So our biggest focus is on product, using really all the revenue that we're generating towards improving product. And so we have some really exciting updates that are going to be rolling out next week, especially at this Web Summit conference. And we work in sprints, right? So there's always something to look forward to. So for the past 2 months, it's been Web Summit, like this big tech conference. And by Web Summit, we have a specific roadmap as to what we want to have ready by then. And so there's some really key features we're going to be introducing at the conference. But we want to just keep building the product better and better and better. And by doing so, not only are we helping our users, but we're also increasing the value add to our client ascension students and to our knowledge egg clients. And we want to build it to the point of an exit. I imagine an exit would happen ideally around like 100 million plus is really our North Star. Because once you get past that, I feel like you really do have to take on investment to further grow it and to build out an organization that's not really attractive to like what I enjoy doing. Like I want to exit ListKit and go right back into client ascension, continue pouring my learnings into that community there, and I just think I'd get tied up if we tried to take this thing too far. So I don't want to go public or go for like a unicorn, like $1 billion exit, but I think we could do something pretty impressive in the next year or two.
I like it. I have no doubt you'll achieve that. So that's it. Thank you so much for your time. I'll of course put like the links to everything, the school community, the products, your profiles in the notes. But for those who are listening on like audio only, is there any final comments from yourself, like anywhere you want to direct people to?
Yeah, I always say just try it out. So like I mentioned, we do 50 free leads. So I forget the URL, but I think it's listkit.io/50 free leads. And so you put in your name and information, and then you just tell us about your ICP, and we'll send you literally a free list of 50 triple verified email leads of people in your ICP. And then from there, you can determine whether or not it's worth going to the website to buy a package of more credits. And other than that, like, yeah, I think a big part of it too is following the journey on social media. Even if ListKit's not a tool that can be valuable to you, you might be listening to this as potential SaaS business owner. And so just seeing how we've kind of built things and we'll continue to build things with product announcements and what we're doing within the school community and how much training and free value we're providing there and how we're rewarding the active community members. And we even convert, like literally the school community is so valuable. We took one of the members from that community and turned him into an onboarding specialist. So now everyone that signs up for ListKit, they get offered a free one-on-one onboarding call with someone in the US that's an absolute expert at putting together the most targeted search possible on ListKit. And that was sourced directly from our school community, someone that was just like people listening, watching the journey from the sideline and was just really interested in getting involved in some way. And so you can do that yourself too, if that's your motive, or if you just are here for a list building solution, check out the free 50 lead sample. And other than that, I just appreciate you having me on. I like to talk because I've just been bottling this up for the past 2 years and really been excited to share it with the world. So I appreciate you giving me the platform.
No worries, man. Good to chat and excited to see the journey. Cheers.
Appreciate